Well, we're all processing the decision by Governor Mitt Romney to have Paul Ryan as his running mate. I think more vetting has gone on with Congressman Ryan in the last 48 hours than we did for the whole campaign season of Barack Obama when he was elected for president. But today we're delighted to have with us Kristi Hamrick. She's president of Gary Bauer's PAC, which is Campaign for Working Families. And of course, Gary heads up American Values. There's this whole saying that behind every successful man, there's usually a surprised mother-in-law. But in this case, for Gary, it is Kristi. Hi, Kristi.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm a huge fan of your staff. I've been talking to them for years, getting Gary on the show, but nice to talk to you.
Well, listen, I want to say thank you to you. When I ran for Congress back in 1994, I received $1 to $5, $10, $15, $20 checks from all over the country from Campaign for Working Families. It was terrific.
Well, we were glad to help.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, listen, here we are. This now is really heated up. We have the Romney-Ryan ticket, and what's your initial thoughts and reaction?
It was an absolute home run for Mitt Romney to choose Paul Ryan for his VP spot. In reality, the Republican Party, and in fact, America, is a socially conservative nation. And although the media might pretend otherwise, and certainly the Barack Obama administration pretends otherwise, it is a nation that is more pro-life than pro-choice in its own viewpoint. It is a nation that's fiscally conservative. It is a nation that's uncomfortable with the fact that we have trillions of dollars in debt, and that it's exploded, and that Barack Obama has added more debt in his short 3 years than all the other presidents added in the history of America combined. I mean, it's a problem. And on top of that, this debt was supposed to bring us low unemployment, and we have 40+ months of 8 and over unemployment. And I think that's the strength of the ticket. Not only is Paul Ryan a strong social conservative, 100% pro-life voting record, for example, but he is a real intellectual firehouse when it comes to how to get the economy back on track.
Well, I think that probably was what catapulted him into being the perfect choice. And I know there was a lot of pressure for him to look at Marco Rubio, but when you look at the end of the day, Paul Ryan sitting at the head of the Budget Committee in the House, he gets the figures, he understands the problem. Quite frankly, he's put them in the face of the president on many occasions, and especially Obamacare. I think he dissected Obamacare within like 3 or 4 hours when it came out and said, hey, this thing's going to take us down the river. So he really probably is the perfect choice and fills in maybe with what Mitt Romney doesn't understand when it comes to the budget process in the House.
Yeah, I think what's so interesting about this choice, and I'm interested in what you think of this, is that a lot of times a vice presidential pick says as much about the candidate as any other choice he makes. And Barack Obama chooses Joe Biden, a very gaffe-prone, affable, a bit of a buffoon. You know, no offense to Joe Biden, but he's not well respected for his ease and smoothness. He could have picked Hillary Clinton to be a running mate with him, who would have been a strong second. You know, Mitt Romney chooses someone who is said to be the intellectual centerpiece of the conservative mind today. He chooses someone who's known to be brilliant and an expert on the budget. He's not afraid to be overshadowed by the fact that everybody agrees that Paul Ryan is really excellent on the stump, and that maybe Mitt Romney could have a little more energy and verve on occasion when he's speaking. So not only is Mitt Romney not afraid to be overshadowed, he looked at his own campaign and brought in a strong second to shore up social conservatives, to add to the economic prospects, and to really bring in someone who's an articulate spokesperson, which really is the #1 job of a vice president. The president is there doing executive things, and the vice president is out on the stump using the bullet pulpit to make that argument, and Paul Ryan is brilliant at that.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. What this shows to me is that Mitt Romney, leaning on his business acumen, that if you're going to be successful in business, you hire people that are better at what they do than you are, and that you're not wanting to be a micromanager. You actually hire the best in the area of the need of the company. He did that in the financial department for the United States by putting Paul Ryan on the ticket. Quite frankly, I'm easing now towards the Romney mindset, because he didn't really thrill me at first, but this decision now certainly helps me understand that he's willing to put the right people in the right place.
Yes, I think for Mitt Romney, one of his early problems with the Republican base and with a slightly more conservative America was that you had to believe over the last two elections that who Mitt Romney might have been in the past as governor of Massachusetts, or some of the choices he made in that venue, that they did not reflect who he really was or what he intended to do. And he certainly convinced a lot of people of that. Mm-hmm. But with this choice, you can see the direction he wants to go toward a stronger debt-free America, toward the social conservative side of these issues, like life, for example. He's put his money where his mouth is. He has said, I want to govern fiscally conservative. I want a strong national defense. I want to be concerned about some of the social issues. And up to this point, we've had to take a lot of that on faith. But with the Paul Ryan choice, you can see this is a very concrete example that he meant what he said.
Now, what do you think the left's going to do, Kristi? I mean, they're going to have to go after Ryan when they've already been on record as saying he's a pretty good guy. Now what do they do?
Well, they had an ad in one of Paul Ryan's recent races. And again, here's a guy running in a strongly Democratic district. He's won by a landslide the last 7 times. And that should say something to people. He knows how to play well with others. But they did run an ad against him where a Paul Ryan lookalike was pushing a grandmother off a cliff and saying he was going to wreck Medicare.
Wow.
I think that's where they're going to attack him, because in the budget, he is saying we need to look at some of these programs and structure them to be effective. The tremendous irony is that there's one person running for office who has cut Medicare, and that's President Obama. Obama cuts Medicare, guts that program to try to prop up his health care law. That's not what Ryan did. He is saying, look, this program's not working, let's restructure it. And yet I do expect him to be attacked as a person who Democrats will say he wants to end Medicare.
You know, the other thing about this choice is interesting. Most vice presidents are picked because they bring a block of states with them to the campaign. They help. You know, Wisconsin could be tough for Romney, so it wasn't a pick of trying to win that state. It was, to me, it looked like it was a pick to go after the central problem of America, and that's our economy.
Yeah, I have found that really interesting as well. What they have said with Paul Ryan, I was actually watching Karl Rove talking about this yesterday, that he feels it brings Iowa in play, for example, and maybe places like Ohio and some others that have been struggling with the fiscal end of things. Wisconsin still a couple points down and leaning toward the president still. But the race isn't over yet, and people do love to vote for native sons.
Kristi,
but you're absolutely right.
What are you seeing out there through the PAC? I know that you guys get involved in grassroots politics. You did in my campaign, and then I went on to become chairman of the state, so I'm very familiar with how this operates. But what are you sensing out there? Is there a real move to get conservative? I'm seeing the Tea Party mindset really have an effect in some of these races. What's happening out there? We're going to see the House and the Senate go to the right?
I think that we will hold the House. A lot of people, myself included, think that we can take back the Senate. You and I both know that the Senate does not operate as in its constitutional role. For the most part, it's an obstructionist body. Although in this administration, that's not really a bad thing. But we still have a shot at taking back the Senate, and that's exciting. But it's the race for the White House that's really key for everyone. And that Tea Party sentiment, although it's attributed to them, I think is actually fundamentally American, because it's a question of, are we a nation that pays its bills and makes sound financial decisions, or are we going to borrow against our children's futures? And even though the Tea Party is attributed with that idea, even though it's said to be Republican, I think it's really more American. I think the Democrats are making a mistake pretending like it's a fringe movement that thinks that this debt and this unemployment is acceptable with the American people, and that everyone is buying the idea that what we're investing in proposed tax increases makes things better, because it certainly hasn't so far.
All right, since you are involved in so many grassroots campaigns, how would you prioritize the issues? Is the economy number one, jobs number one? Where does national security come in? Where does immigration come in? How would you rate those issues?
Well, for the GOP base, well, for Americans across the board, the economy is number one, and the issue of debt is a tremendous concern. So certainly in this race, the economy is number one. And yet for Americans, the right track, wrong track data indicates that there is concern about the social issues as well. And life, for example, in America, many people don't realize that the United States is 1 in 4 out of 195 nations, the most radical on abortion in the world. Only China, North Korea, Canada, and the United States allow abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy for no reason whatsoever. Sex selection, it doesn't matter. And sometimes with taxpayer monies involved. That kind of stuff troubles the American people. 7 out of 10 Americans say they don't want their tax dollars to subsidize abortion. And the reason I'm bringing that up is, yes, the economy is number one. And yet our government has invested in a lot of radical social policies that trouble people. So I think the economy, number one, the government's involvement on social issues, number two. Immigration isn't as big this year, but certainly when we look at how to defend America, a strong national defense and respect for the military is huge. And as you know, we've got these draconian bill measures, tax measures coming up shortly at the end of the year that if we don't fix it, we're going to gut our military December 31st.
Wow. Well, listen, thank you for what you guys are doing, and the best to you and Gary. You guys remain in our prayers. You're a wonderful organization doing a great work. We're going to work hard between now and 84 days, 5 days, whatever it is. We haven't got
I know it's over.
It's going to be honest before we know it. But Kristi, thank you, and give my best to Gary, and keep up the good work, you guys. Okay?
Absolutely, and please tell your watchers to vote.
And that's right. What do they say? Vote your values and value your vote, right? All right,
That's
thanks,
right,
Kristi.
absolutely.
All right, Kristi Hamrick with us today, and she heads up Gary Bauer's PAC, Campaign for Working Families. And let me encourage you to go to American Values, their website, support this organization, get online. It's a tremendous resource for you. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.